GearNetwork.com.
This is a Gear Network production.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead.
Welcome, everybody. It's the Better Live Than Dead Extracast. I am Ryan Wolf, at WolfBLTD on Twitter, joined today by a special guest, a friend of the podcast, a friend of everybody on Twitter. If you're not following him, you're not Twittering right. We have Husaria on the line, at Husaria on Twitter. And we're going to call this one today, before I let him talk, just to give you guys an idea of where we're going with this. It's going to be the BLTD Extracast Angrycast. There's a lot of stuff going on in Buffalo sports lately, I'm sure, as you all have seen. But before we get into that, we want to say hi to Husaria. How you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm awesome. How are you? I'm
fantastic. Thank you for asking. I thought you were just gonna play up the role and start screaming into the microphone.
Well, people like listening to podcasts. They have the volume up maybe really high, and then I just want to make pop out the eardrum. It's not nice.
You want them to get comfortable.
I don't want them to not be able to hear the birds. It's springtime, the birds are back. One of the greatest things, is you wake up in the morning, the birds are chirping.
Yeah, we have you on,
I don't want people to lose that.
And we do have you on speakerphone today. I know we were trying to set up the phone the right way, but you want to be able to spew some of your takes, and the best way to do that without melting the phone to your face is to put it on speakerphone. So we're cool with that. So we've already tested it. Everything sounds good. So if you're having some trouble hearing them, just turn up the volume a little. We promise. I'll keep them under control. But at the time of recording, it's April 30th. It's Sunday afternoon. This morning, the Buffalo Bills announced the worst kept secret in Buffalo sports, that they are letting go of Doug Whaley as well as the pro and amateur scouting staffs after the NFL draft happened. This comes on the heels of the Buffalo Sabres, same people obviously, letting go of Tim Murray and Dan Bilesma, as well as the pro and amateur scouting there as well. So to start off with, I want to get your thoughts on that, because I know that's kind of been a touchy subject for a lot of people.
And the Bills firing or the Sabres firing?
All of them. You can just touch everything. Whatever you want, you can go.
All right, let's go with the Bills stuff first. It was a little bit overdue. At first, I was a little annoyed that they did it right after the draft, but a few people explained pretty well that it's the end of the whole scouting process after the draft, and it's just. But a few things that rubbed me the wrong way. You did it first thing on a Sunday. I know you urgency is the thing, but what's the harm? These people know they're going to lose their jobs. What's the harm of letting them stay extra day? It's not like corporate America where if you want to get rid of somebody and you want to do it as soon as possible, you're going to do that. But these people say they're not going to sabotage your career. If they do something stupid, they're going to be blacklisted in the NFL. That's just the way it's going to be. So it didn't sit well with me. And the whole press conference thing today, when Terry kept talking about the process, I heard Joel Embiid in my head trust the process. Well, Terry, you don't know. He lost all benefit of the doubt with me. I don't trust him. Everything he does in my head now is a basic failure. I lost. When they say Bills questions only, you don't get to set the rules anymore. You came in, you saved the Bills, you kept the Sabres here. But what have you done since then? Okay, you poured money into Harbor Center. You're about to make a big building, that building. You're prepping the area for a stadium, but you're making money, which is what you're supposed to do. Where's the winning? We're still losers. We haven't made the playoffs since you took over as owner. In either team.
Yeah, I was going to say. With Terry Pegula, the thing for me is that naturally, when they come in as a new owner, he's learning very quickly. I think at least that this is a different kind of monster. Professional sports aren't as they're a business, but you can't run a professional sports franchise the way that you run a restaurant or run a business or run a company or anything like that. It's completely different because it's just there's so many different variables in it, and I think he's finding that out. But the bad optics that you pointed out are, they've fired Pat LaFontaine came in, and then Pat LaFontaine was part of he was kind of the head of the search to hire Tim Murray, and then Terry Pegula comes out and says, "Well, I wish I had more input in that process." To which then I think things they didn't like Tim Murray because he spoke out of line a lot and said things he shouldn't have said and kind of spoke his mind in a job where you really can't do that. You kind of got to be tight to the vest. You have to be very vanilla, very boring. I don't agree with it, but that's just how it works. So what was Terry Pegula trying to say when he was, I wish I was more part of the process in hiring a GM? It's like, it's your franchise. You need to know these things. And it always seems to a lot of people on the outside looking in who are involved in the process through the media portion of it have said, if you want to be involved in it, be involved. But if you talk about you don't know what you're doing, you want to be hands off, but you want to also have a say, hire someone that's a buffer between you and the team, kind of like they have with Pat LaFontaine for 2 weeks, kind of like what other franchises have, where there's a president of hockey operation, there's a president of football operations, there's someone you trust to work side by side with you, with your best intentions at hand. Not the GM, not the coach, but the president of hockey or football operations works hand in hand with you, knows your mindset, knows what you want to do and where you want to go, and then go with it. And if you don't like something, that's when you tell that guy, hey guy, I don't want to do this. Tell him I don't want to do this, and then that's how you have that conversation. It just to me, in a nutshell. And again, with your trust the process line, I'll get to that in just a second. But to me, it all reeks of still not knowing what they're doing, not knowing what direction they want to go in. So it's almost like they're spinning. I mean, Sean McDermott has come in and he's really sold himself to the Pegulas, and it's hard not to buy what he's selling because he seems like a very strong-willed, stand-up kind of guy. And if that's what they like, cool. But the way you're going about this is not good, and it doesn't look good. And maybe they don't care how it looks, but as for what you were saying about trusting the process, I mean, you can trust the process if there was a process to trust. But right now, it's what have you done? It seems to me like it's a what have you done for me lately? And if it's not good, you're gone. Even if the team's going in the right direction. Because, I mean, I'm sure you'll agree with me in some facet that maybe Tim Murray should have got another year. I understand the this or that would happen because of it. But just on the surface, a guy like that, you wonder maybe he should have got another year. I understand the X's, Y's, and Z's of he could have done this better. He didn't set himself up because the defense is this or that. Whatever, I get that. But on the surface, it just looks really bad. How are you going to bring someone in and say you've got long-term viability here in this city if you do well, when Terry Pegula has signed a ton of contract extensions for guys? He's paying so much money to other head coaches, other general managers, other scouts, other people in the organization that don't even work for him anymore just because they're not doing a good job, and that seems to be the best option, just to fire everybody. So I think it's a bad look for Buffalo sports. They really need to kind of right the ship quick, because if not, it's just going to keep happening. We're stuck in kind of a cycle. But the one thing they say, and I'll let you go on this one, the one thing that they say, winning changes everything. Go out, make the playoffs. I'm sure all this stuff everyone will shut up about all this stuff.
And so there's a couple things. So I guess somebody says there's $30 million in salaries at least, and all these firings and everything,
which is insane.
And Terry, what really bothered me was Terry's it's typical in sports. Do you, it's in corporate America, it's typical for people to get bought out all the time. I think that's what Terry was thinking of.
Yeah.
And people get bought out all the time. But when you have you have the entire board of a company basically on severance because of a screw up, this is not right. Basically, I worked for an employer that had a really bad reputation of turnover, and no one would go work there after a while because they got a reputation of firing people after every quarter because they couldn't make a goal. So we're just going to get out there. So the local media is not saying they think everything's a great move, but the national media is bashing Terry Pegula right now. I know there are some people at Hockey Center doing that. Monday Morning Quarterback had an article out already today saying Terry Pegula doesn't know what he's doing. Local media is so beholden to Russ Brandon and Access that they won't even ask any questions about him. No one asks any questions except for is Russ involved with the hiring process? If Harrington and all of them love to speak, how they defend the fan, they speak on behalf of the fan. If they had any fucking fortitude, they would ask, why is Russ Brandon still here? And also, why is it always Terry? Terry always says him and Kim are the owners. Why doesn't Kim ever speak in these conferences? Like,
and if I'm not mistaken, and sorry to cut you off real quick, but if I'm not mistaken, isn't Kim actually the owner of the Bills?
They are part owners, I believe. So, you know what? If you're going to brag about, this is a partnership, this husband-wife partnership ownership, then put her up there. She's as accountable as Terry is then, unless it's just all for show so you can make people feel good that your wife also has a say in the business when really she should sit aside and not do anything, and you just want to make it look like window dressing. That'll probably piss a lot of people off, but maybe we start questioning that because I heard peep out of her in those meetings, and it's just Terry.
Well, and you know what? Up to this point, I'm surprised that we've gotten this much of Terry Pegula because, in the past he said that he wants to be hands off, doesn't want to talk to the media. We've seen why he doesn't talk to the media because he's not a very published or a very polished public speaker. We get that because he's just used to running businesses and whatever it may be and going from there. So I understand that. Yeah, actually, Kim is the owner and the president. So she's part owner and president of the Bills. That's her official title, where Terry's the owner and CEO, which I would assume that's why he's talking. But again, I understand your point. The one thing that really gets me is there's no accountability at all. Like you hear him talk, and the first thing he says is like with Tim Murray, oh, he wasn't my hire. I didn't hire him. So it's not my fault that he did bad or didn't do well enough because Tim Murray brought Sam Reinhart and Jack Eichel to Buffalo.
I'm going to cut you off here and say bullshit. All the people that work for him, he has a say. He can go over the head if he wanted to and say, I don't want this.
Absolutely.
He could have gotten rid of Whaley if he wanted to. But he chose not to. He didn't want to rock the cradle. He didn't want to cause any problems. And now we're in this mess. Like, the Bills, the Bills at this rate may not make the playoffs for at least 2020. The Sabres, forget about next season unless you find some way to retool the roster. Like, they're a bottom 10 team at best right now. I mean, we'll see what happens. Yeah, but you set them back.
I would have to wait until after this offseason to see who they hire and see what that person does. I mean, because and this can kind of go off on a different direction, on a completely different tangent. I know you want to talk about the draft lottery, so I'm going to keep this very cut and dry before we get to that topic. But the accountability is terrible. We know that. He said, I didn't hire Doug. I didn't hire Tim. Okay, well then if you didn't hire them, the people, I know Doug Whaley, if I'm not mistaken, he was left over from, because I watched the Bills enough
from the Ralph era. I
watched the Bills enough, but I don't pay attention to all the other crap. I just see what I see on Twitter and go from there. But at this point, if Doug Whaley was a holdover from the Ralph Wilson era, so yeah, he didn't hire him. But if no one's holding a gun to your head saying you can't get rid of Doug Whaley or you can't get rid of Tim Murray, if you didn't like the fact that Pat LaFontaine hired Tim Murray, why did you hire Pat LaFontaine? I mean, granted, that was something we're never going to hear about because another business move, another savvy business move, he had Pat LaFontaine sign a non-disclosure agreement. So we'll never know what happened with that relationship. We've heard things we don't know. We can only kind of work off of the rumors that we've heard. But there's the one thing that Terry Pegula keeps talking about in his press conferences is he wants the character, the communication, the trust, everything to be great. But you have to start somewhere. And they haven't started it. They just keep spinning their tires. They're stuck in the same spot. But as for the Sabres, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say they may not make the playoffs. I would say if to put money on it, it sounds crazy. I would put money on the Sabres making the playoffs before the Bills because, again, a GM can come in. They could trade that 8th overall pick. They could keep it. They could draft a really good defenseman or a forward, whatever it may be, and then they could make that jump. Go out and get a number 1 or number 2 from Anaheim or Minnesota. We've talked about this ad nauseum at this point, and we probably will for the next couple months. But there are so many things that the Sabres can do where the Bills are kind of handcuffed. Because as we've seen with moves like Mike Gillislee going to the Patriots, the one thing you heard about when considering picking up the option and keeping Gillislee and not letting him go to New England was cap room. Because Doug Whaley has kind of worked him into a corner because, again, Doug Whaley wasn't terrible. He did a decent job here in Buffalo, just did not do good enough. He got them to the door but couldn't get them in to the playoffs. So at this point, it's one of those things where Doug Whaley signed players to big deals that may not pan out or aren't panning out as well as they thought they were. That happens. That's what happens in sports. Not every big contract you sign or player you re-sign to a big deal works out. But you have to have somebody in that spot who can go, okay, yeah, guess what? Charles Clay didn't work out. That's my bad. But guess what? Here's how we're going to fix it. Here's how we're going to work around it. Here's how we're going to make the team better, even though Charles Clay may not be the guy we thought he was. And that's, and again, it reeks of inexperience, because that's another thing about the Bills and the Sabres that is really kind of getting stuck in my craw, if you will. The Sabres talk about inexperience and how, Tim Murray was a great scout, but he didn't really know how to do the GM job the right way. Or Doug Whaley was a great scout, still is, but doesn't know how to do the GM job very well. So what's the first thing that we hear when the Sabres start looking for a new GM? We're going to go hire somebody who's been an assistant GM, but always been a bridesmaid, never been a bride. Okay, that's cool, because the people you bring in may be very smart. But then again, if you're telling me inexperience is a big problem, and then you go out and get someone who's just as inexperienced, what are you trying to do here? Again, it's all about the optics. You're doing a very bad job of selling me this product.
The whole thing was just because of McDermott instilled this belief in Terry that there's no accountability, that you need to get rid of everybody, and it carried over the Sabres. They got rid of Murray too early. Blisma, I can see, he needed to go, but once he tasted blood, it went downhill from there.
Yeah, I mean, once your star players, I mean, because we know the Jack Eichel quote about how he was in the locker room saying that he would not re-sign in Buffalo, that was originally thought to be a Jack Eichel thing. It was reported by Paul Hamilton, which people have their problems with Paul, and there's some things that Paul says and does that kind of irk me, but most of the time when Paul says something, there's something there. And apparently Paul misheard someone and thought it was Jack, and it wasn't Jack, or whatever it may be, and that wasn't a thing. But when your team is, because we saw it the first year, the team was rebelling against Dan Bylsma, and then they started winning a bunch of games that went away, but there were still rumblings there. And then as the season went on, same thing happened, but the rumblings got stronger, which I think was partially why he got fired, because he lost control of the locker room, he lost control of the kids. And the kids are most important on this team. I'm sorry, Brian Giunta and Josh Georges, but Sam Reinhart, Jack Eichel, Rasmus Ristolainen, Ryan O'Reilly, Zach Bogosian even are more important than you guys are. So it's one of those situations where you kind of just got to go with it, and you got to, you got to play with the hand that you're dealt. I'm sure Bylsma would have loved to stick in Pittsburgh, but when he lost Crosby and Malkin, that's it. You're done. If you can't do your job and you can't keep control of your job, you're going to lose your job. So, for me, again,
Tim Murray listens to your podcast?
What's up?
Do you think Tim Murray listens to your podcast?
I have no idea, but you can send a message.
I think he listens to Chris, because I know what Tim Murray's Twitter account is. I know who he follows. I know that he probably listens to Box's podcast. So, well,
you'll have to hit me up off the air with his Twitter handle, because I remember the night we tried to figure it out, and I didn't know you found it out. So
it was awesome. I wanted to tweet him like, "Yo, let's play some Halo."
You'll have to text me that.
So yeah, it's unfortunate. Blisman lost kids, but Murray, I would have given him another year. Now, I mean, it's such a mess right now, and I mean, as if what's funny that Matt Wren got me back on board to watching the Sabres next season, and then they fired Murray and Blisman, and I'm like, what the fuck? Really? So I'm like, I mean, the Sabres are a mess, the Bills are a mess, the NHL is a mess. I mean, how the hell do you not give Vegas the first pick automatically?
I like that transition there. I like that transition there. How does $200 million not get you a first overall pick?
It's $500 million. $500 million for a sixth pick. And they wonder why their expansion teams are doing miserably. You set them up to fail from the beginning.
Yeah.
By the way, the Predators are up 6-1, which is pretty awesome.
Let's see. The Predators game is over. Let's see. Why did I go to the Sabres website? NHL.com. Oh yeah, Predators won 3-1 today. Awesome. Hey, by the way, real quick before we talk about the draft, what do you think Buffalo would do if Edmonton won the Stanley Cup this year?
I think you'd have a lot of really angry people.
I think a lot of revisionist history, I would think.
The problem is, like, you've got rid of the people that got you to where you are right now, so there's nothing to do about that. But you would have you'd have a lot of people saying, oh, they should have never tanked or what have you. But you know what? You know what's the scarier part? If the NHL actually called its rules, you could say they would definitely go to, like, at least a conference finals. That team, like, with Connor McDavid, like, if there were no clutch and grab and everything else, he'd be all over. You'd be watching Gretzky all over again because you won't be able to stop him. I haven't watched much of him this year, but, like, I understand, like, he's now one of the top scorers, obviously, but just, like, you know, his talents work well in his game. It's not obstructionist.
Mm-hmm. He's fantastic to watch. I mean, I would be upset. I wouldn't be upset about it. I would be certainly bummed. But, you know, it's...
Let me say this, though. If it was the Sabres, there's no way that team's getting to a cup, even with Connor McDavid on that team. The way it stood, you swap Eichel for McDavid, it wasn't going to happen.
Well, no, but again, the Sabres have a lot to do to get better. Where Edmonton, they put the right... It's like with Toronto. It's the same thing with Toronto. They put the right pieces in the right spots. Again, and I mentioned it in an article that I wrote for the Hockey Writers, cheap plug, that... And it's an analogy that makes a lot of sense. It kind of hit me at the time, and I was like, that actually sounds pretty smart. The Sabres in Toronto had a house. The Sabres bought the house. It was a crappy house, and they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to strip the whole house down, and we're going to take everything out, the walls, the electric, the copper piping. We're going to strip the house, and you know what?
I think I've made this similar analogy before, but
they said we're going to wait for this storm to pass, and we'll see how the house is afterwards. Where Toronto just buys a crappy house and says, we'll keep it as is, we'll deal with it, and then we'll see when the storm passes. So naturally, looking at that analogy, when the storm passes and the tanking or the rebuilding is over, and you start to build the house back up, what do you do from there? Buffalo's got nothing. Toronto's got something. I mean, Toronto, they use the salary cap to their advantage. They stuffed veterans they didn't want on their team in the AHL, paid them not to play, where Buffalo was playing guys like John Scott and Corey Conacher all the time. So you look at it, and it's very... expecting this much out of the Sabres this quick is hard, especially when you've got a guy like Tim Murray who's inexperienced in the GM role and doesn't know how to make things work out the way that he wanted them to. I mean, because last year he tried to get Cam Fowler, and they wanted the 8th overall pick, which ended up being Alex Nylander. And I understand you probably don't want to make that trade because you need the offense coming in, but it's one of those things where you can't rest on your laurels and say, we'll try next time, because then you get a season like last year where they actually got worse than the year before, and then you lose your job.
So this is how I feel about the rebuild. So the season before Eichel is basically you're tearing the whole house down, and then you're just going to go from there. Then the season of Eichel, you have your materials on site, you start planning. The season after Eichel you're supposed to build a house and then see what you need to do from there. Unfortunately, they just got too slow at building the house, and now they've fired all the workers, and they have this half-built house that they're like, well, how are we going to finish this?
That's fair.
This is what they are right now. They have a half-finished house.
That's fair.
And I'm really jealous of, like, how Toronto's farm team, the Marlies, like, they do a pretty good job with that. Like, they're always winning, they're always a contender, and that helps with your prospect development. Like, how are Bailey and Esching, Baptiste, like, how are they supposed to develop when the team is utter crap?
Yeah, when they play, when the Amherst are very inconsistent. I mean, they've got good coach in Dan Lambert, but there's nothing down there to play with. I mean, it's going to change this coming up season because they've got a few more prospects going in, and I'm sure the other thing, too, that I really think that the Sabres need to do is get a general manager in there and then get an assistant general manager for whoever you bring in and have that assistant general manager focus specifically on Rochester. That way you don't have, you don't have doing what Tim Murray was doing, where he was the GM of the Sabres and the Amherst and had to worry about both at the same time. Give that job to someone else, let someone else take care of that and go from there. Because at this point, I mean, Rochester's bad. Rochester's been bad for a while, but it's not even so much I want to see the Amherst be really good. I just want to see Rochester become a pipeline again for prospects, because at this point, it's it's miserable, because you see guys like Baptiste or Bailey come up, because Baptiste has been okay. Bailey's been really good, but the problem with Bailey, the knock on him, is he's inconsistent. So how can he go work on consistency when he's playing for a team that's not very good at all, and that's inconsistent itself? So it's one of those things where you really want to see something change, and I really would like to see Rochester be better. So you get that, so you end up getting that pipeline like Toronto has. And and that was a dumb thing me to say, because we're always comparing Toronto to Buffalo. But in terms of, you want a team to be run a good way, where you have, if Jack Eichel goes down with an injury, you can bring up a guy like a Bailey or a Baptiste. They step in and they don't miss a beat. You have as little growing pains as possible. And at this point, it's not going to happen. And it hasn't happened. I mean, there's a lot of working to be done still. So whoever's going to come on board and take the job, they really, really need to be ready for whatever they're coming up against. But, I mean, a lot can change in an off season. You just have to have the right guy in place and the right guy ready to pull that trigger. And I think if they bring in a Jason Botterill or a Paul Fenton or someone like that, that'll be okay. They'll be fine.
Well, you seem to have a lot of faith. I have zero faith in the Pegulas to do with the right thing or make the right hire. Playing next October, I'll probably be playing Call of Duty on Saber weeknights and telling 13-year-olds that they're horrible and they need to stop fucking swearing on Xbox Live. That's probably going to be my winter. Or skiing, I don't know. I got a car with a rack on there now, so I can do all sorts of cool things outside. So as long as I have to talk to people,
that's fair. But, the last thing I want to ask you, the one thing I want to ask you, because I know we're getting close to about a half an hour here, and I did say we want to cut off about a half hour here. What about Philadelphia finally getting a break in the draft lottery? I mean, come on, that franchise has been struggling.
Oh.
Did I hit a nerve?
If it wasn't at the cost, if it wasn't at, I don't mind. So I know Saber fans hate Flyer fans, but Flyers / Philly Twitter is a lot of fun. I've met people from Philly from Twitter. They're not assholes. Actually, I'd rather drink with a lot of Philly Twitter than a lot of Buffalo Twitter. Buffalo Twitter is trash, so I'll just go with that. But it'd be nice if they can do well. I'd like to see that. But I'll tell you what, I still think Ghost was the Rookie of the Year last year, because a 26-year-old that's played in the KHL for 6 years is not a fucking Rookie of the Year. Hockey sports writers are the biggest bunch of cowards and idiots out there, and hire Joe Yerdon, because there's very few smart minds in hockey, and they're not being hired. You just keep the same old dummies that are like Don Cherry.
I don't disagree there with the hire Joe Yerdon or the Don Cherry's a dummy. I think it's, again, not giving Las Vegas the first overall pick. It's bad optics. I mean, yeah, I understand why you don't do it, but I understand also why you should do it. So I guess we'll see what Las Vegas does. I mean, we've got the draft about a month away. We've got a little over a month away. We've got the expansion draft, the actual draft. Free agency starts 2 months from tomorrow, so things are rolling quick. I mean, you've got Edmonton looking to go up 3-0 against Anaheim. Lots of stuff's happening. I mean, hockey's still happening. It's just weird because we always think hockey ends in April when the Sabres are the season's over. When Game 82 is done, hockey's done for me. But I'm getting back into the swing of things, I guess. But I want to say again, I appreciate you joining me, man. It's something we got to do more often. Maybe next time, though, I can come to your home. We can have some great alcoholic beverages, some good beer, and we can go from there.
I got a new grill. I want to use it. And I got a hammock. Takes from the hammock. That'll be the next podcast episode.
I also did hear on Twitter that you fucked the mailbox.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
Okay. I also saw that you tried to fuck the grill too. So we gotta keep it 100 here. Okay. You do what you want to do on your spare time. You have fun with that.
Look, man, it's 2017. We might live in Trump's America, but you can't judge me for my preferences of
You can still have sexual relations with a mailbox. It's okay.
I do think it's actually illegal. Like some dude in England got busted for it.
Oh,
and he killed himself. He killed himself because of what happened.
That took a turn. I was not expecting that. That took a big turn. But
Dave Kelly found that article. So
isn't Twitter the greatest? Like you get trashed about your backpack, and then it's a mailbox, and then it's your grill. What would you do without Twitter?
The best part is, have no cats. It helps be a lot quieter and less takes. I'd have to find somewhere to put my takes.
Well, I do want to say, speaking of your takes, speaking of your hot takes, you can follow Husaria at Husaria. It's Husaria on Twitter. Follow me at WolfBLTD. Check out BLTDsports.com. Check out my terrible attempts at hot takes on the HockeyWriters.com. I'll tweet out those links as well. I want to say again, thank you for joining me, man. We'll talk sometime here soon.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I like dropping the hot takes. Rich is going to be mad at me, though, because I wrote an article about this, but I promised one for the Sabres offseason, but then they fired everybody.
It's hard to write an article.
Sorry, Rich.
It is hard to write an article when there's nothing to write an article about because they fired everybody.
Maybe I'll just write about, like, adopt a pet. Get a dog, get a cat.
You should actually make it like Sabres offseason preview and then just make the entire article about that.
Well, actually, I did that last year with the Sabres offseason. I got inspired by Ryan Nagelhouse, the NFL gift recap. He thought it was pretty cool. I didn't want to like steal his idea. I'm like, Ryan, let me can I like do this? He's like, sure. I'm like, okay. So I'm not sure if I'll do one for this season or this off season. We'll find out. Like maybe if they like make outrageous trades again, like they'll trade McDavid for like 69 first round picks.
That would be a nice trade.
That would be a nice trade.
That's a good way to end it here. I want to thanks everyone tuning in. Appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you guys sometime real soon.
Pegula out.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.
Hey, everybody, thanks for listening to this podcast. If you're looking to support this podcast and this network, visit shopgear.com. That's shopgere.com. It will take you right to amazon.com, to your Amazon account, and you can do all of your Amazon shopping. The difference is using our link versus going to Amazon's link is that you are telling Amazon that Gear Network referred you, and they end up giving us a small percentage of your purchase, which helps out this program and this network entirely. And of course, if Amazon's not your thing, it's understandable. On gearnetwork.com, GERE network.com, if you click on the top bar that says donate to Gear, there's several different PayPal buttons. You can donate to us as well if Amazon isn't your thing. Your support is vital to helping the Gear Network maintain this programming, this quality programming, and continuing our growth through the year. As always, thank you very much for your support and your listens and your downloads and your likes and your shares from all of us here at the Gear Radio Network.